So we're going to talk about branding, and I want to get you really to think about your life a little bit. So as we get started, before we go online and think about all the digital things and things that you can really do to be able to promote and to develop what you're doing, I want you to think about your life first. I saw something online, folks, and I saw it in Google, so I know that it absolutely has to be true, right? So it said that the average person is going to live 73 years. 73 years. So if you convert that, that's about 683,280 hours. So, but for me, I plan on living probably about 120 years because there's a lot of stuff that I want to accomplish. But if this number is true, it said that the second largest activity in life next to sleep is work. And so if you start working at age 16, most of us started before then, and work to age 65, most people are going to work past the age of 65. And if you work 40 hours a week, that means that you're going to work 89,400 hours at a minimum in life. So my first question to you is, what are you committing your life to? What are you committing your life to that you would be willing to be the absolute best at, but you would want to work 89,000 plus hours doing? 89,000. So when our parents, because I'm probably a little bit older than you, or my parents, they took a job because that's what they did. It wasn't about working for a company that had soul or had purpose or, what is their social impact number. They didn't care about all that. It was all about just working a job. But now people make different choices. Like, I can't work for this company because I'm not going to be able to get a month off and be able to work remotely. Like, I'll actually have to go into a physical office and actually work with people and talk to people. Like, that just doesn't work for, for this next generation. And so I want you to think about, because work as an entrepreneur is a lifestyle. So when I decide to do what I'm doing, it is a lifestyle, from where I work, the clothes I wear, the things that I do. And everybody wants to be an entrepreneur until they become one. And once they become an entrepreneur, they realize what? This stuff is hard. I mean, people don't just wake up and just pay you just because you look good. There's a lot of good-looking people in Miami. It's like, I went to the hotel, and I was like, everybody's, in shape. And, everybody, it's just different. I walked down the street, and there was, 20 CrossFit, places, right next to each other. In Michigan, it's not quite like that, right? But so this whole thing that we're doing is really about doing what you love and loving what you do, because I truly believe that you can absolutely be the best at it. So when we talk about building a brand, it's not about going out and creating logos and doing it, but it's about really taking your lifestyle and doing the thing that you ultimately love doing and being able to be the best at that. And then you can make decisions on what projects you want to work on, right? So if you want to fly and go speak at a certain conference or hang out in Miami, because I'm from Detroit and it's sometimes cold out there, yeah. All right, Detroit in the house, right? But the main thing is, I want you to first of all think about what you're actually committing your life to, right? Because that's going to be critically important. In life, society forces you to be average and to be status quo. How many people in here, by show of hands, went to kindergarten? Okay, everybody passed kindergarten? Okay, so we are a room full of high achievers in the room, I can tell, right? So in kindergarten, we're all taught to be creative. But when you're taught to be creative, they tell you the formula for how you're supposed to be creative. So when it comes time to color, what happens? You have to color in between the lines. You have to color between 12 and 1 o'clock. So I have a daughter who is 6.5 years old. She's not 6. She's 6.5 years old. She's a backseat driver. She's telling me where I need to drive and do all kind of stuff. But when we're trying to teach her about being creative, our thought process is that I want to redefine what creativity is for her. So we have chalkboard walls so she can literally write on the walls of our house, right? So we have idea paint in my office, and we try to make sure she writes on the right walls, right? But she can be creative because we want her to know that there's no ceiling. We want her to know that creativity is not drawing in between lines. We want her to know that creativity is not just creating between 12 and 1 o'clock. You might get inspired, even though she needs to be in the bed before 8 o'clock, you can get inspired later on in the day or at different times. And so when you think about creativity, I want to change your frame of reference when you think about what does it truly mean to be creative. What does it mean to think outside the box, which is an absolute cliche that we overhear all the time, right? All right, so let's go to the next slide here. Does anybody know what this is? Yes, we have. Okay, all right, so we have some smart people. We have no consolation prizes for you, but that was a great answer. That is correct. This is the Seattle Central Library. So when I was a kid, I hated going to the library. You couldn't talk in the library, right? There was a librarian who had a bun in the back of her head. I mean, it was a bad experience going to the library, right? But now they're creating libraries where you can go have coffee. You can even have a date in the library. I mean, now growing up, I would have never wanted to, like, tell her, honey, well, you know what? We're going to just go hang out at the library, right? I mean, that might not have been, that might not have worked, right? But they're creating libraries to be hubs and to be experiences. So when you're creating the ideas or the things that you're working on, think about how you can create experiences. Brands are all about creating experiences, about creating an experience and getting people to be able to feel and to connect emotionally to the ideas that you actually have, right? So in the same year that library was created, the Livingston Public Library was created. What does this library look like? What? White House. It looks like something from D.C., right? So I know that both libraries were working with two totally different budgets, but the people who were working on this library built what a traditional library looks like, right? This is what a library is supposed to look like, right? And so when you're working on ideas, are you doing what it's supposed to be done? Are you being status quo? Are you doing what everybody else does? Or are you going to stand out? Society does not remember the people who just draw in between the lines. We don't remember people who follow the rules. Now, I'm not telling you to break the law, but there's nothing wrong with breaking rules, right? And so we want to get you to think about breaking rules in a way where your ideas stand out. So when someone is pitching the same idea that you are, you have a way, there's something unique that you bring to the table that gets people excited and galvanizes people to where they want to work with you. Companies want to put money behind you. Anyone who within the startup space knows that VCs and angels, they don't fund ideas, they fund people. So at the end of the day, you have to be the kind of person that they want to put money behind, that they're willing to put their name behind, right? And so, does anyone know what this is? What? What? Yes, a parking garage. A house? Good answer. This happens to be down in Miami. It's the 1111 Lincoln Road parking garage. What do they do in the parking garage, folks? What? He's trying to steal my thunder over here. Okay, all right, okay. No more answers for you, big fella. Okay, all right. You're trying to take all my answers. Okay, all right. So what they do, whoever created this, right, they designed the parking structure so that people could do yoga. I mean, they didn't just design it so that people could park cars, right? And then the answer that you gave, they're also having weddings inside of this parking structure. So I use this as an example to get you to think about when you're working on something, are you just designing what everybody else thinks should be designed? Are you coming up with solutions that anybody can come up with? Or are you creating stuff that really matters, that people want to connect with and people want to work? People do business with people that they like. They like, right? Now, people will also do business with people that they don't like because we have certain tools called contracts, which means that I don't need to necessarily trust you because I have an instrument in place that if we run into an issue, then we can settle this, but we don't want to have to go to court. Lawyers really don't want to go to court. They want to settle outside of court, right? So, but this is just to show you, to get you to think about thinking outside the box. When you're designing something and you have extra space or capacity, how are you actually leveraging that? So now let's get into what an actual brand is. A brand really is a collection of experiences, interactions, and touch points that people have with a person, a product, a thing, an organization, an athlete, a CEO, It could be a pastor. It could be anybody. But what it ultimately does is that it drives the economics of that entity, meaning that every single thing that you do drives the money and the revenue that's connected to that idea. So when you walk into the office and you mistreat the assistant because you think him or her, their dollar value, they're making, I don't know, $12, $15 an hour, and you look down upon them and you interact with them the wrong way, and the executive sees that, then they see what kind of person you are, and you could lose an opportunity. Because I've literally talked to people in HR that said that is one of our tests to identify how they treat the assistant when they come in the office, right? And people make decisions. We can look at water. Like all water is not created equal, right? Even though it comes from the same source. So you could have like the cheap bottle of water. You could have the Fiji bottle of water, which I guess it comes from Fiji Island, right? Then you could have Dasani, you could have Voss, and you could pay anywhere from 99 cents to $4 plus for a bottle of water. You can go to Starbucks and pay $5 for a cup of coffee, but you could also go to the gas station and spend 99 cents on a cup of coffee. But when we make those transactions, we willingly make the financial transaction. When you're in Starbucks, are you in there negotiating? Like saying, well, you know what? I want to splash your almond milk, but I'm only going to give you 25 cents. I mean, you're not in there negotiating, are you? You gladly make, some of you might be in, I might have gotten behind somebody in line. And people get excited when they get in line there, right? They run through 20 things. And now that we have the mobile stuff at Starbucks, people get excited, and then they get upset, even though they just actually put their order in, if the order's not done in 3 minutes, right? Because there's a certain perception that comes along with that. But when you look at a brand, what it really comes down to, every single thing that you do online, in person, how you treat people, how you connect to people, is driving the economics of the business. It's driving it. So that means that we cannot afford to mistreat people, regardless of how we feel about them or their position, right? Because, again, these are all things that drive the actual economics of our company. A brand is a blank container. And so whether it's your personal brand or whether it's the business brand that you're working on, I want you to look at it as a total blank container. And it's up to you to fill that container up. It's up to you to give that container meaning. It's up to you to be able to position. And we're not talking about manufacturing stuff. There's a lot. It's easy to manufacture stuff today. Kim Kardashian is an example of a manufactured brand. They make a lot of money. Not sure what the talent piece of it is, but they're finding ways to be able to monetize that. I don't think that's scalable for the average person, though. But people do things. I personally believe that from a brand standpoint, that people should not teach above what they live. That's just me personally. But people do it all the time. People will go out and teach about all kind of stuff because there's a market for it. There's a shiny ball in the room, and there's an opportunity, right? But I believe that brands are really at their best when they're authentic. It's who you are, and you can create great stuff just based off of who you are. People talk a lot about passion. And I like to give this example. So when you talk about passion, it's not just liking stuff. So I just knew one day that I was going to go to the league. I was going to play basketball, okay? And I knew I was going to be in the green room, and my mother was going to be there, and I was going to bring our family out. I played in high school. I played in college. So I can play a little bit. But there was one thing that stood in the way between me and the NBA, and that was talent. That's the only thing that got in the way of me playing in the league was talent. Outside of that, I was going to be a lottery pick. I was going to have a 16-year career. I was going to do great things. So I use that example because I want people to understand it's not just enough to just like stuff. So when we talk about passion, not just I just like to do. There's a lot of stuff that I like to do that I'm not proficient at. And so when you talk about being passionate, we're talking about connecting it to a signature talent, something that you can operate, in my opinion, no less than the top 3% in the entire world, meaning that even if somebody has more money than you, they have more degrees than you, more experience, I'm the kind of person that if me and you are going for something, I feel like I can beat you even if you've been doing this your whole life. I'm just competitive, right? And so you have to have that mindset because there's going to be people who will eat your lunch They will eat your lunch, and they've been doing this like this long. How many people have ever turned the TV on and you saw somebody doing the same thing that you've been working on for about 10 years? You're like, girl, I could have did that. The problem is that nobody knows that you've been doing it, right? So there's something about speed to market. So when we talk about a brand, sometimes we want to be perfect, and perfection is the enemy of done. And so we try to make sure everything is perfect, and I've been a prisoner of the moment where I'm trying to make everything align and make everything work out and make everything perfect. And we can wait and miss out on our moment because we want everything to be perfect. There's a difference between being perfect and being excellent and having quality product and quality services. But I want to challenge you to not be scared to come out. In many cases, we're scared to come out with an idea because of what other people will think. Like if I come out with this, like now you can't even post anything because you're like, if I do a selfie, now, we already know that if you do a selfie, it's probably going to take you about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20 shots. If I was to look through your camera roll and you did a selfie, there'd be about 20 shots, right? Oh, at the wrong angle, I weigh like a half a pound too much. You know, the light is hitting me in the face the wrong way. We make all of these decisions because we're concerned with how the outside world is going to see us. And we work the same way in terms of working on ideas. We wait for everything to align, and then we miss our moment. And so even from a brand standpoint, you have to shoot sometimes and then aim later, right? Because we can't wait for all of the, to have all the money in the bank for everything, to get all the funding, to be able to work on some ideas. We got to get out there sometimes to just make things happen. And so I really want to challenge you to really think about how do you get out there and not be afraid of failure. I mean, some of my greatest lessons did not come from getting an MBA, but they came from, like, actually doing something in the real world and not just doing something in theory. There's a lot of armchair quarterbacks out there, right? And people will talk about you should do this or you should do that, and they haven't done anything, right? I'd rather get out there, try to figure it out, fail, and move forward and learn from it. So as we begin to think about your brand is a blank container. And it's up to you to be able to give meaning to it because that's how people are going to connect to the idea. Every single person is a storyteller. I had a chance, I went to TED, not TEDx, but to the TED conference in 2012. And so I had a chance to meet Susan Cain because my impression of a leader was somebody who was charismatic, meaning that it had to be the kind of person that could get in front of people and could just rock the crowd and just move people. But after talking to her, she wrote a book, and I think it's called The Power of the Introvert or something like that. And it really had me to really rethink that people can actually be leaders and be great storytellers, and they can be introverted. It's actually possible to be able to communicate and to be able to share a tremendous story and to let people know what you do and to not be the kind of person that can just get in front of everybody. And so it really had me rethink. So even if you're an introvert, you have the ability to be a tremendous storyteller. You have the ability to be able to communicate your ideas so that people want to connect with you. So I want to challenge you that if everybody's told you you're introverted, you can't do this, you are a great leader too. Whether you're introverted, whether you're extroverted, whether you're both, it's a great opportunity. But again, it's time for us to be a storyteller. So when we start talking about telling stories, stories are told in person, they're told online, they're told in documents. So every single time somebody interacts with you, you're telling a story. The clothes that you wear is communicating an actual story. The way your hair looks and your style and the color and the certain things that you do, those things are communicating a story, and people make decisions every single day. Just when you walked in the room, there was an impression, right? Because we have something that's called unconscious bias. And so I think our brain can process, 7 to 10 things at a time or whatever it is. But there's a certain number that once it goes past that number, then our unconscious bias kicks in. And we make decisions without really thinking about it based upon how we have been, how we've grown up. right? And so a lot of decisions are made, and so you have to understand, you trigger things, positive and negative, every single time you walk in the room, every time you open your mouth, every time you send an email, every time you post something, every time you share things online in a public domain, you are communicating something, and people are making decisions to whether they want to work with you, they want to connect with you or not. And that's just life, whether it's fair or not, that's just the way that the world operates. So I don't know if you've ever heard of this before. It's called significant objects. So there were two guys who wrote this book, and they did this experiment. So it was Rob Walker and Joshua Glenn. And so what they did is that they took 100 items that were basically like worthless items, right? That probably were valued at about $1.25 each. They had different people write a narrative for each one of these products and actually put them on eBay. These products end up selling for over $8,000. I mean, I'm talking about like stuff that was worth like nothing. But people read the narrative that was written up about these products, and they generated over $8,000. The product didn't change. But what people got out of the story was different. And so when you begin to tell your story, this is what people are connecting to. People are connecting to a significant object. They're connecting to something significant. I mean, people want to believe in the stuff that you're working on, but you got to give them a reason to want to buy into it. You have to give them a reason to want to get excited. So this is a great example of significant objects. Stuff that was $1.25, I ended up making about $8 grand. It was an experiment, but this stuff really works from a storytelling standpoint. Things that you do are communicating. So say, for instance, if you are a tech guy or gal, right, and you say that you're in tech and you come in with a flip phone, right? Now, you might have the flip phone because you don't want to be on the grid and you don't, because of all the technology that's inside of a smartphone. I highly doubt that's probably why the person had the flip phone. But if you say that you're in tech and you have a flip phone, then it's probably going to send the wrong message. So there's certain things that communicate something about your brand when you walk in the room or not. And technology has a way of doing that. And so I use this as an example. But again, think about all of the things that you do. And again, I believe in living life on purpose. We live life on purpose. The things that we do are done strategically. I don't believe in trying to manufacture stuff. It should be who you really are. But we should also be thoughtful in the things that we do because we're communicating stuff without communicating anything. How many guys in here have ever bought clothes before? All right. Okay, clothes. Okay, all right. Okay. So now, something happens when we go to buy clothes. So we're going to just call this guy John. Okay, so John is going to the store, and for some reason, now John is single, he's a millennial, and so he's going to the store to go buy something. And so there happens to be a young lady there who happens to look like somebody he would like to date. He's not dating anybody. So he tries on this fuchsia shirt. So when he tries on the fuchsia shirt, she says, "This shirt looks good on you." Well, John doesn't hear that the shirt looks good on him. He hears that I look good in the shirt because that's what he wanted to hear, because emotionally he saw somebody who was communicating something that agreed with him and looked like somebody that he would like to date, right? So now he had the fuchsia shirt. So now he's really getting excited. So now he tries on another shirt. So he has on an apple green shirt now, and he bought 2 shirts. She got him excited about 2 totally different shirts. There's nothing in his wardrobe that he has that matches any of this stuff. Nothing at all. So he goes out, he takes the shirts, he wears them, and he thinks that other young ladies who don't work at the store, who are not going to get anything out of him wearing the shirt, are going to respond the same way, and they don't. Right? So he's still the same person. I use this example because we make irrational decisions when we buy stuff. We don't buy stuff just because it's good for us. We buy stuff because there are a lot of different, it's on sale, or everybody else is buying this, or this is what we should do. We go get gym memberships, and I know I had to change the gym location. I had Lifetime Fitness, loved it. It was 20 minutes away from my house, so I had to change to something that was 5 minutes away because the friction between 20 minutes and 5 minutes was stopping me from going to the gym, right? But there are a lot of things that we do and we buy that are irrational. Buying domain names, that whole industry is based on overconsumption. They want you to buy, I used to have like about 200 or 300 domain names. I had to go back. I was like, I'm paying, because I was securing everything from a brand standpoint. I wanted to be safe, right? But I realized that it was overconsumption, and it's based on that. And that's how that industry works. So I say all that to say part of the reasons that we buy stuff or that we do stuff is not because it makes sense financially or because it's the healthy thing to do. There's a lot of peer pressure. I didn't even realize that bullying, if you didn't tag somebody in a photo, that's a form of bullying. I just found that out. I was like, really? Like growing up, like if you unfollow me online, I'm cool with that. Like I don't even track like whether people unfollow me or not. But I have people like, man, you just, like, man, I reached out to you and you didn't follow me back. I'm like, okay. But their self-esteem and their worth is connected to how fast you tag them or did you like something, did you comment? So a lot of what we see online is superficial. Like, there are people that never take a vacation, and they took one vacation, and now, they're, online doing all kind of stuff. And I've been guilty of it, right? Because, I check in at the gym, and I check in at the airport. So I want you to know that I work out sometimes, and I want you to know that I fly places. But I don't check into McDonald's. I very rarely go to McDonald's anyway, but I don't check into those kind of places. You don't check into the bathroom, do you? So we only check into cool stuff because it's a lifestyle. Right? Because we're communicating something. We check into the cool stuff. We share the highlights. But then we base our life on what we see other people do, and all of a sudden we're like, okay, I got to go do that. Well, they might not really be doing that at all. But we form opinions about what somebody's life is really like because of this snapshot, right? And so a lot of the decisions that we make are not really solid decisions. So there's a couple things that we think about when we think about brand value, and it goes back to intellectual capital, social capital, and invisible capital. Every single person has what I call intellectual capital. That is the secret sauce. There's certain things that people are willing to pay for that you bring to the table. And it might be a degree, it might be certifications, it might be some know-how or things that you do. Again, even Kim Kardashian has intellectual capital. I know that might be hard to believe, but she has intellectual capital because there's something that gets people buying the stuff that they're selling and watching. How many people, by a show of hands, watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians? All right, so we got some fans in here. Okay, I didn't know if anyone would actually raise their hand in public, but it's all good. So we got 2 people. It's all good. I'm just having fun from the stage, that's all, right? But intellectual capital, there's nothing wrong with that. She is making money, and there's positive things that you can find out from that, right? But intellectual capital, think about the things that people are willing to pay for in the business that you have. What is it that separates you from other people who are doing the exact same thing? There's people doing the same thing you are, but everybody doesn't make the same amount. And I don't equate success with money, but there's nothing wrong with having money. I heard John Paul Bryant put it this way. He said, even if you don't like money, you gather it like a capitalist. Even if you want to give it all away. You gather it like a capitalist, even if you want to give it away for scholarships or social impact stuff. So think about from an intellectual capital standpoint, what is the secret sauce? What are people willing to pay for out of the stuff that you do? Social capital. Most of us underutilize the relationships that we have. Totally underutilized. So we look at front-end and back-end connections. Back-end connections are the people that you have a direct relationship with, that you can literally pick up the phone and call. And most of us wait until it's like an emergency, and then we start calling people when we need them, versus continuing to build the relationship so that when we need them in a critical moment, that we have established rapport. Or we go to events and then we think we're playing Uno and we're just throwing cards all over the place. When I go to an event, I realize I'm probably not going to connect with more than 3 people in terms of keeping in contact with them, right? And so some of this is thinking about the relationships. The other is what we call front-end connections. So front-end connections are the one-to-many connections. So on social networks, there are a lot of people that you interact with. Some of the people you don't even know, right? But I'll show you how you can actually leverage it. I was flying through Chicago, and I was going to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And I was going there, but we had bad weather. And they said that the flight was canceled, and we had to go back. And so I said, I want to get a refund right now because I knew as soon as I left, they were going to forget about giving me my money back. But the plane was leaving, so I had to get on the plane. So I got on the plane, I called, and they were like, we cannot give you a refund. The reason we can't give you a refund is because it was bad weather. So I'm trying to do the right thing, folks. I'm elevating it properly. I'm not yelling over the phone. I'm doing all the right things. And I wasn't getting the results that I needed. So then I had to shift a little bit. So I said, look, I have about 30,000 people that follow me online. And I said, if I don't get a refund, I'm going to turn this into a PR nightmare. So instantly, he got an epiphany. And he said, normally we don't do this, but just this one time, we're going to give you a refund. Now, he didn't have enough time to go look, but I do have 30,000 people across all the platforms. But I was able to leverage some of you who might follow me, and I was able to save about $600, right? So that's social capital, being able to leverage it when and you guys came, give yourselves a hand because you guys came through and saved me $600, whether you knew it or not. But there are plenty of examples of how you can leverage your network. When I wanted to meet all of the media people in Detroit, I said, how can I get them to think about me? Everybody in business is selfish. In business, nobody cares about anything else. For the most part, they care about themselves first, and then they might care about you a little bit afterwards. So I wrote an article, and I said, here's the list of all the news anchors and their Twitter handles. I did a blog post, then I tweeted, and an amazing thing happened. When I put their Twitter handle and talked about them, they retweeted it. And so then we started resharing stuff, and so then they would see me in public, and what happened was that they knew who I was, and then I started getting on TV. So I say all that to say, I couldn't tell them, look, hey, I need you to meet me. I just said, hey, here are all of the news anchors. And once I started talking about them, then they started sharing. And so we have to think about that in terms of us telling our story and trying to get our message out. Understand that in business, everybody's selfish. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. It's just people are focused on what they have to do. And you definitely have to understand that. Now, this is me. It's about 90 degrees, and I have on this jacket, and I'm trying to look cool. But the point here is that every single one of you is a media company. And you have to understand, so the different platforms, understanding the mediums and how to communicate ideas and messages and doing things in real time is critically important in terms of you being able to get your actual message out. So when we talk about brands, the 3 points that I wanted to kind of focus on is work on ideas that are ownable. So when you start talking about digital real estate, domain names, social network handles, you want to be able to own, you want to be able to secure those actual platforms and domain names, but you want to own the conversation online, right? There could be some trademark things that you can look at. So there are a few different dimensions from that particular standpoint, but you want to be human. You want to create ideas that are scalable, right? So you want to be able to create some things that you can actually have the opportunity to be able to scale. Here is an example of something that we did. How many people have ever had an idea that they pitched and people did not want to fund? Have you ever had an idea that people didn't want to fund? They were like, that's an awesome idea. That is a really good idea. We're not going to fund it, but why don't you go try it, and then if it works out, then you come back to us. So we had this idea called Detroit Week. I went pitch it to all the funders, the philanthropic organizations, that we want to bring together 1,500 people. They loved the idea. No one wanted to fund it. We said, we're going to go ahead and do it. So we worked on the idea, and we had $250. So I bought that sign back there that said Detroit Week. I personally walked it to every event that week. We got 1,500 people. But during that time frame, I also said, we want to do something really cool. So we came up with Detroit's largest selfie. So when we did Detroit's largest selfie, we posted it online, and at first we had 32 people in Facebook who had actually liked the actual event. My team came back to me and was like, Hajj, we need to cancel the event. I said, we're not canceling this event. We're going to make this happen. Now, I turned the news on, and when I turned the news on, what happened? Every single news station is saying, Detroit, the largest selfie, is coming to Detroit. And I was like, oh, shoot, these people are getting ready to embarrass me, right? So I'm doing all this, and an amazing thing happened. People came out. We ended up getting picked up by Good Morning America. We ended up being on 88 different stations. And it was an amazing event that ended up happening because we weren't scared to be able to put something out there. So I'm going to run through a few slides, and I'm going to skip some and maybe answer a question or two because I know I'm standing between you and happy hour. But I hope I've been interesting so far, right? Okay, so again, this is an idea that we put together for $250 and got on Good Morning America, right? So, so when you think about a brand, think about this. There are three things to think about with this as well. Mental real estate. You want to be the only solution in the mind of your customer. So when your customer needs a solution, you want to be the go-to person. Next is digital real estate. So you want to be consistent across all the different platforms, right? So that is location is critically important. Next is geographical location. You want to be the go-to person in your market. You want to be the person that they're looking at like, we have to have this person on. And then, so that got me on CNN, and I showed this picture, and I asked her a couple questions. So I was at an event, and for some reason, they put me all the way in the back. I'm talking about like by that curtain all the way in the back. I was all the way in the back. So I knew to network, I had to get up and go to the bathroom. I had to go get drinks of water. And so the guys in the front, or in the back, they didn't realize that I had a quick first step. I didn't make it to the league, but I still had a quick first step. So I get past them. I see D. Wade, who's my guy, and I knew on his bucket list that he wanted to take a picture with me. So I said, this is D. Wade's moment. I don't want to blow this for him. So I went up to him. I asked him, did he want to take a picture? And, of course, the answer was yes. You can see the smile on his face. So of course, like D. Wade is, like, excited that, like, Hajj just stopped to take a picture with him. So I take a picture with him. And obviously, inside of our pockets, we literally have a computer. And we have a chance to be able to communicate things in real time, right? So I tweet to him right after that, and I apologize to him for interrupting his dinner. But I said, that's not enough. I need to still take this to a whole nother level. So then I actually, after it was all over, I wrote an article, and I know you can't see it, but I wrote an article, and it says 6 steps on how to interrupt Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union's dinner with style. It gets picked up by a major media outlet. Dwayne Wade sees it, and so he calls me. He actually retweeted and called me genius. So now we haven't done business yet. But I think part of the reason that he is playing for the Chicago Bulls is that he'll be closer to Detroit. And then at some point, he's going to realize that I'm not a stocking type person because I haven't stocked them. But then I'll be able to reference this, and we'll do great business together. So this is just an example of just in real time sharing moments in the moment and really trying to make connections. So I know my time is up, but if there are a question or two I can answer as I go stage left. Quick question. Cool. So I am an engineer by trade. So I have a BS in mechanical engineering, I have an MBA, worked in the automotive industry for 10 years, was responsible for 20% of Ford Motor Company's aftermarket parts in all these little teeny cities that we went to. But I knew from day one I did not want to do that my whole life. My job ended on my birthday, 12/23, 2 days before Christmas, 2009. I had just came back from Walt Disney. My wife was pregnant with our daughter. And so we had a lot of life-changing events. So I had to make a decision. But I was already working on the stuff that I'm working on now. So I believe that if you have an idea, that we should all have side projects. So I was working on it on the side while I was still getting everything going and working my regular job. So I literally walk out of Ford Motor Company on my birthday. My iPhone buzzed with my first opportunity at a major client, and it was a pay raise over what I was getting at Ford. But it was scary because now I didn't have the schedule and all of the things set up, and I had to understand how to manage my time. And so I've been going ever since. But if you're an entrepreneur, you have to literally be an animal. I mean, if you're not willing to kill your prey every day, you need to go work for somebody until they fire you and just keep collecting a check, because you understand how it goes. I mean, the grind is real. And when you're in a relationship, everybody is in entrepreneurship, because there are ebbs and flows, and all the entrepreneurs understand exactly what I'm talking about. There are ebbs and flows. Like, everybody's not Mark Zuckerberg. Like, everybody's not having a $1 billion exit. I mean, this is fallacy about all these exits. So I hope that helps a little bit.